Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the This Is Me podcast. I'm Karen.
And I'm Ellie, and today we have India joining us. India is a people director who is passionate about supporting women, building careers, bringing her whole self to work, and is breaking down the barriers of that's how we've always done it. A mum of three who wants the future to be as bright as possible and have some fun. So, India, thank you very much for joining us. And to kick us off, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and how you've got to where you are today?
Will do. Thanks both. Really great to be here. Loved working with you. So really nice to see that you guys are doing this and really pleased to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
We loved working with you too.
Yeah, we did.
Good. I'll do a bit of a whistle-stop tour of me. That will be personal and career. The two are entirely interlinked. So I'm gradually moving my way north through England. So I was born on the south coast in Bexhill-on-Sea.
I didn't know you were born down there. A proper southerner.
Born to a very working class family. My dad ran a distribution centre for milk and eggs. So the middle person between farms and local businesses. My grandparents ran all the beachfront businesses, so the ice cream kiosk, the cafe, the beach huts. So we had a wonderful childhood, lots of free jelly shoes and ice creams on the beach, and a lovely part of the world, but not particularly exciting or full of career opportunity for the younger generation. And after my mum and dad separated, we moved to Cambridge. So I was 11, so I did my last year of primary school in Cambridge, went to secondary school there, left school after scraping a few GCSEs and didn't really know what to do with myself. In amongst that time, I decided to go and live in Dublin for a bit. Right. Met some people on holiday, off I went, came back, thought, need to get a job. In between that, my dad had moved to Edinburgh, so we were flying backwards and forwards from there every other weekend, playing havoc with cabin crew because we'd have to wear the unaccompanied minor badge. Mum would hand us over at security, and if we didn't like our chaperones, we would run off and hide to see how long it took for them to go into panic mode. Still feel a bit bad about that, but you learn quite a lot of resilience when you're 10 and you've got to travel on your own. It's amazing how many times you can get asked, do you want to see the cockpit of this plane? And we're like, we've seen 7 this month. We're all right, thank you. But great to be able to see quite a broad part of the UK and kind of travelling around a bit. So came back from Dublin having done bar jobs, restaurant jobs. I did chambermaiding once and I doff my cap to the people that do that 'cause it's not for me, and took a temping job and ended up on a building site with what was Sir Robert McAlpine at the time, and they were just doing the snagging processes on the end of the cancer research labs that they were building as part of Cambridge University, and ended up on this building site and loved it. And I was like, oh, this is actually quite a nice environment for me. I like to wear trainers to work. I swear a bit, so I'll apologise in advance if any slip out.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
But industry,
I just thought that you picked your job because you love to wear trainers and you swear.
I like to wear trainers. My insights profile actually says something about she doesn't like a dress code, and I was like, how does it know? So clever. So yeah, I just thought, well, this is great, and I temped with, I think it was Office Angels at the time. I'm sure all of us have done a bit of work with them at some point, and ended up getting a permanent job with Tarmac on a small concrete plant in Cambridge who manufactured beam and block flooring, which is used predominantly in house building. It's the internal floor layers. So I spent a year with them, production planning, haulage planning, counting concrete beams. It was great fun. It was really lovely. And head office for Tarmac was in Derby, Ashbourne, just up the road. And I'd been asked to come up to head office for a week to meet some people. So I was 18 then. Came to head office and they were like, well, the other reason we've asked you here is we've had some internal promotions and we've got a role here, and we wondered if you want to move to Derby and come and do the job. So I was like, oh, okay. So in that time, I turned 19. So I packed everything I had into my Vauxhall Corsa and drove north. And Actually, I've been here 19 years now.
you?
So
Wow.
I've now officially been in Derby longer, over half my life, which is great. Started working with Tarmac, very similar, but on a larger scale. Production planning, working with sales teams, house builders, various different things. Very different times then. If we hit sales, we all had Prosecco in the office on a Friday. Everyone went to the pub
Everyone
for a
went to the
pint at
pub, yeah.
lunch. Very different world
Yeah.
to where we are now. But that industry for me was where I felt at home. But I was obviously not doing what I do now. But it gave me a real insight into the entire kind of run of how we generate sales through to how we take an end product out, which I just find really fascinating. And that kind of behind the scenes piece. While I was there, I met my other half, Andy, who 19 years later, we're still together.
Wow.
And 2007, we had our son, Leo, who is just turned 18, so terrifying that that's happened so quickly. So we've just done A-levels.
It's just in his A-levels.
He passed.
Yeah.
He passed.
Oh,
Thank
awesome.
God.
We're all good. He's now technically more qualified than me, which is great. And that was also a year that we had quite a serious recession, and the bottom fell out of the construction industry quite substantially. Andy and I were both in much more junior roles, and it was really risky to have all our eggs in one basket. It's probably really important to say as well that I suffered quite badly with postnatal depression.
Right.
I was 23 weeks when I found out I was pregnant. So it was
Wow.
all a bit of a surprise. And
Not
as we
half.
all know, you're not at a point where there's a lot of options
No.
for what's happening. So it was all very quick. I was, I'd not been here that long, couple of years. Me and Andy weren't that long together. It was all a bit of a thing. So I didn't go back to Tarmac. They were long, heavy days. It was great. I loved it. It was just, I just said, I just need a really boring job. I just need to go to work and go home because I can't do both. So I ended up taking a temping job with Arriva, the bus and train people, not the insurance.
Yeah.
On reception, just doing data entry, welcoming people. And while it's such a lovely job, about 6 weeks in, I was like,
Climbing the walls.
Now so bored.
Yeah.
My head is doing too much. And I sometimes open my career discussions with, I was very nearly an estate agent. Because what happened was I got offered a job as an estate agent. And one of the directors I was working with, when I kind of gone, look, I'm on a temporary contract, so I'm going to give you a week's notice. He was like, no, stop, don't do anything, just give me till the end of the day. And came back that day and said, I'd like you to stay on, but I'd like you to come and be the PA for the business development team, work for me. His name was Keith, and he was the new business development director in mainland Europe for Arriva. So their job was to tender for train contracts and concessions across Europe, or acquire what were privately owned bus franchises and bring them and mobilise them into the Arriva world. And I learned so much doing that job. Keith is an incredibly poignant person in my life. That one moment shifted my entire career. He was someone who did not see level, he did not see gender, nothing. And for a man who was 40 years my senior or something, was very unusual for his time.
Yeah.
I travelled nearly all of Europe with them. They got me involved in doing research in areas that we could go and look at, places we could work. They took me to Malta when we took the concession there to help mobilise all the offices and train some of the people. Team meetings would be anywhere from Prague to Barcelona to Luton. And a fantastic team who I'm really proud to say we still meet up as a minimum on an annual basis. And Keith became a really important person in our lives. We holidayed with him. We had a really awful house move once and we had nothing. We weren't meant to have nothing, but these things don't always go so well. And he just had his kitchen redone, so we drove a dishwasher and a washing machine up to our house for us.
Oh my God.
And did loads of wonderful things, and genuinely gave me that first feeling of sponsorship in a career and how important that is. And known Keith for the best part of 20 years. He very sadly passed away last year, and we went to his funeral in December. It was only a week or so before Christmas. And it was incredible because of the couple of hundred people that were there, the vast majority of them were people who'd worked with him over 40 years, and he'd kept that connection and that network and that sense of real team. So he really kind of set the stall out for me in terms of find the right people, be in the right environment, your opportunities become much more open. And while I was working for Arriva, a HR director for their mainland Europe businesses joined and was working out of our offices and kind of went, do you fancy doing a bit of HR? They've given me some support in London, but I like paper and sitting at tables. So I was like, okay, I've been doing the PA role for a while, really like the business. What do you think, Keith? He was like, go for it. Get all the experience you can. So for about a year, I did a bit of a dual role and then moved over and I worked for Katrina. She supported me through doing my CIPD. I did that in evening classes over a year. Great support at home with Leo and stuff, but it meant I wasn't having to juggle too much. So I did that at college in evening classes. I did things like my, it was SHL at the time, ability and personality training. So I was British Psychological Society registered for a number of years and given some real opportunity on stuff that I knew nothing about. I didn't even know what HR was.
I'm one of those say, did you even know what it was?
No. And I don't,
did you just say, can I just wear my trainers?
Am I okay in my jeans?
Yeah.
But it was really good because I had no technical experience in that space. I mean, I was 24 or something. Who does at that age unless they're really sure what they're doing? So again, she was another person who was like, I don't need you to have technical capability. I can teach you that. But if you're hungry and want to go for it, let's do it. So I saw early in my career quite a strategic level of HR because I worked directly for a very senior director. And saw kind of a mix of both the UK and European working practices and various things. So really fantastic time. And as that business evolved, David Martin, who was the chief exec at the time, stepped down and there was lots of changes. I thought, do you know what? I've done about 7 years here. What I really need to do is an operational HR job. Like I actually need to do HR.
Now you knew what it was.
Yeah, I thought, let's go and give it a whirl, see if I can actually do it. So it was quite a drastic change actually, because Tarmac's quite a big business. The first time I worked for them, they were owned by Anglo America. While I was working for Arriva, Deutsche Bahn bought them out and amalgamated them. So big global businesses, thousands and thousands of people. And I left Arriva to go and work for a family-run business with 100 people who I didn't even know businesses like this exist. 10 minutes up the road, it was brilliant. Who are the middleman, essentially, between free-range egg farmers and packing and distribution centres.
So back to your dad's work.
Oh my God, I know.
That's
how
my
weird.
dad's world. So you don't realise you're scared of birds till you step into a chicken shed with 40,000 of them running at you, and the smell.
You had that in Australia, didn't you, Elle, when you did your chicken?
One day of it in Australia. It was the worst day of my... It genuinely, legitimately was one of the worst days of my life.
Terrifying.
It was awful. And the smell, you are right, is horrific.
The smell is bad. And chickens are cannibals. So for anyone who says you're entirely safe with 40,000 chickens, I'm not convinced. Can
I ask you a question before you tell us? What made you decide that job? Was it because it was local? What appealed to you about that job?
I'd never heard of them before. I think I was just looking around. Now, there's an element of safety in a smaller business where you kind of go, how badly can you get it wrong? Actually, it turns out quite a lot. You're the only one. But when you're looking around for a grown-up and realise it's you going,
I was going to say, it's really, you can get it really badly wrong.
Get it really badly wrong. Thankfully, worked in a really nice environment, operationally brilliant people and a really good model. Like you could walk in off the street and say to them, I fancy being a free-range egg farmer. They help you get bank loans, find land, set everything up, like a really smart setup, very impressive business. Day 2 of working there, Andy rang me. I'm on my way home. You're going to need to go to Pets at Home. Seems as you work down the road now. I've got a dog on the passenger seat.
Okay, great. Just what I need.
Thor appeared, 8 weeks old, got home. I was like, right, okay. So I've been around to my friend's house to borrow a crate. So we've got some safe space for him, run down to Pets at Home, get some stuff. And then Andy went, right, I've got darts tonight, and went out. I was like, I'm day 2 in a new job.
Oh.
I've got this 8-week-old puppy. And however old Leo was, 6-year-old, I was like, this is...
Yeah, thank you.
It's okay, I can do this.
I think I might have stabbed him.
With the darts.
The problem with an 8-week-old puppy is they're so darn cute.
Yeah.
And they do sleep quite a lot for that first week, and then reality dawns, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was quite nice, actually, having done jobs where I travelled quite significantly, to be 10 minutes from home, nip home to let the dog out. You know, even if you work 7 till 7, you're still not doing a particularly long day. And I was really standalone there, so managed to do some great stuff. We did a joint venture with Noble Foods, who you might know. They produce goo puddings.
Right,
so
yeah.
And somebody I know, Caroline Maskin used to be the HR director, though it was the same time as you, but that's how I know them. But yeah, I do love goo puddings.
Yeah, absolutely. And understanding that food manufacturing environment versus concrete manufacturing, because concrete doesn't tend to go off once you've turned it into something. Food manufacturing environment is so fast paced, the margins are so small. Really learning how family run organisation have become so successful in what's a very competitive but also small margins for success, and how they'd diversified their offering. So they'd designed some really bespoke IT systems. So they were using the same kind of process Amazon do now to track and transport various things. Very, very clever. And really thought about how they do business. And we set up a joint venture to bring all the transport together into one. So my first experience of doing joint venture setups, cheapy opportunities, those kind of things, which in that you're it environment, just frantically Googling, how do I do this? And then hoping...
No chat GPT then, would there be?
My God, that would have saved my life back then. Yeah. But the really important lesson for me there in conversations I've had with people since is when they go, well, I would apply for that role, but I don't know if I'm ready yet because I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I haven't tried this. And I've gone, if you wait till you've tried and tested everything, you're never going to do it. HR... and I don't want to do our function a disservice because I do think it's much more around how you do something, not what you're doing. Employment law is very binary, it's very set. The rules are there. You can go on the ACAS website, get all the answers that you need, download template stuff, but the implementation of that and how you take people on the journey is the real key. So that was a really big learning point for me to go, it's okay if you've never done a process, but it's still people. Yeah. So if you can do one process, you can do another, you just got to apply the right logic. So I had a couple of years with them and kind of got to a ceiling point with them where their wants and needs from a people perspective became limited either by finances or desire or whatever. So quite an emotional leaving there actually, because family run is very different to being in big corporate environments. You know, you knew everything about everyone. Quite emotional leaving a family run business when you know literally everyone by name and face. But I ended up going back to Tarmac, this time in a HR capacity and in a slightly different world because they were now owned by CRH. The business was in a slightly different shape. So I went into their building products division, so still concrete stuff, but as a business partner. So really enjoyed it, being in that, back in that corporate world, being able to put into practice that stuff, having a team, people that can help, or the grown-ups to look for, and genuinely some of the happiest times in my life working for Tarmac. The kids were growing up, because I had 2 I inherited as well as the one I created. And, you know, kids are getting a little bit older, not as difficult, or not as, what's the word I'm after? They don't need as much.
Yeah,
needy. Get a bit more self-sufficient. Yeah, so really getting into their own, school going well. And yeah, some really tricky things when I was there. My first interactions of picket lines and strikes and union stuff and various things, but a really trusted partner there where I was not put in my HR swim lane, very much seen as part of that team. We make decisions together, we do all of that. So I did that role for about 18 months, and then was asked to go into our contracting division, which they lay the black sticky stuff. So out doing road laying, so a very disparate workforce. And I did that for about 2 years, worked for one of the most amazing people. When I took the job, everyone was like, it's a tricky team to work with. And I said, they're just people. Stop labelling people, they're just people. Learn how to work with them. And the director I worked for there, just a fantastically intelligent, very commercially astute, very, very respected in his field. And again, just really happy to help me, get me involved in what I wanted to do. But my work ethic in Tarmac, my work ethic's never really shifted. But at that point, my job became very all-encompassing. And I remember being at an event, and one of the directors I worked with was a new starter, and he said, I must introduce you to India. She's amazing. Anything you need, 6 a.m. Monday to 6 p.m. Friday, she is there. And I thought, wow, it hit me like a hammer. I know he meant that really positively. And I just thought, if I'm not paid to work 24 hours a day, and I've got 3 kids and a dog and a home and a partner, what am I doing? And I drove crazy distances and worked crazy hours, not because anyone asked me to. I just did it. I loved what I did. I get a lot out of doing my job. I'm quite passionate about not being just a mom or just a wife or just a people director. I'm a combination of those things, but I get quite obsessive over my work because I'm very proud of it, very passionate by it. And this kind of went on, and then COVID hit, and suddenly I'm rattling around at home, not really knowing what to do with myself because I've got a bit of free time, going, this is silly. You work to live, not the other way around. That's definitely the way I see it. And thought, maybe it's time for a change. So by luck, by design, whatever it was, there was then an opportunity on a job board for a head of HR position with Network Rail. And I thought, I'd always said I need to get public sector on the CV. That's what I wanted. I didn't really want to do civil service, didn't particularly want to do NHS because I like the industry, heavy engineering and manufacturing. I thought Network Rail, railway, that's fascinating. And the job application said you need to have a degree, with the job advert, and I was like, I don't have a degree. But it had a phone number on the bottom of it, which had been written incorrectly. So I was like, okay, now what do I do? But there was a name on it, so I found this person on LinkedIn, sent them a message and said, look, before I apply and get kicked back, is there any chance we could have a conversation? A couple of weeks go past, and I was like, So then I get a message back, and he's like, sorry, I don't check my LinkedIn very often, but are you free for a chat? So I ended up having a conversation with Gary, who you guys all know, East Midlands. We spoke for about 20 minutes, and he went, right, I want to see you in the process. Just email me your CV. We'll get you free to interview. I had about an hour's interview, and they rang me later that day to say, we'd love you to come and work for us. So I moved over there in September 2020. And again, it's one of those, why do we put on CVs, on adverts, you need to have a degree?
Yeah, I agree.
I have the utmost respect for those who've gone the academic route, but it shouldn't take opportunity away from people who've learnt that through different routes and avenues. Because actually, I've got 4 or 5 years more work experience than my counterparts who've maybe gone a different route. So I joined Network Rail as head of HR September 2020, and about a month in, thought, what have I done? For a couple of reasons. The reason I love Tarmac was I thrive around people. And I joined at a point where everything was remote, and even more importantly in the railway, because the office we worked in had a signalling and control centre. And if COVID ripped through there, the whole of the Midland Main Line comes to a standstill. So we had huge protocols in place for
oh God,
being in the office.
Think about that, do you? But it would have done,
So it was very heavily controlled. It did start to ease off, but we had on-site testing centres, so you had to be tested, wait for your result before you were allowed to kind of go to kitchens, go to toilets. And it was great because it wasn't just about protecting the railway, we were protecting each other. It was just such a culture shift. And I'd spent 2 stints in Tarmac. My other half works there, still works there. it was part of our DNA. It still is for me. They're a fantastic organisation. I knew everyone. I'd got a really good grounding there. I felt very safe and comfortable. And suddenly I'm building relationships like we're talking now, but you don't really, because you can't, it's so different. We're not a generation that does this over tech. You can't, and then you do meet people and you're elbow bumping because you can't shake hands.
Elbow bumping.
Oh God, the whole thing was just awful for someone like me.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
So emotionally driven. Like, I'll hug anyone that gets too close to me, and I like to have a laugh and a joke. And I found it desperately lonely, and I really, really struggled for a while. And as the restrictions started to lift, and I started forming some really good relationships with the likes of Gary and Tara and some brilliant, brilliant people who work for Network Rail, I fell in love with the railway. And I was afforded some amazing opportunities there. I did trackside competencies, so I could go out and about on the railway. I ran capital expenditure projects that looked at opening electrical control rooms for the Midland Main Line. And none of this is in my scope of responsibility or really my skill set, but was really trusted because I was hungry and kept saying, give me stuff to do, make me useful, use me. And the phrase was always, this is India, she's our head of HR, she does everything but HR. And I was like, that's okay, because I've got a fabulous team doing what they need to do. And I was on East Midlands for about 2.5 years, and I got a call to say, do you fancy doing the director role for the Southern region? And I was like, oh, director had never really been a thing on my radar, because I just thought, I've got, I haven't got a degree in HR, so I haven't got a degree. I've only been doing this for 8 years or so at that point, where I kind of go, have I really got enough experience? Have I really exposed myself? And have I really, do I know how to do pension consultations? Oh no, what am I doing? And I just thought, do you know what? They obviously think I can do it. So, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, really, really interesting. So I was like, London, don't really want to live in London. So I'd had some quite honest conversations, kind of say, look, if you really want me to do it, I'd love the opportunity. This isn't a permanent shift for me. I'll probably do 12 to 18 months of commuting. After that, it's probably going to take its toll. New job, exciting, you can kind of live with it. So went to do that, started there, I think April or May 2023. And spent a year, 3 or 4 days a week commuting to London, getting to know the Southern region, very different setups down there. We've got High Speed 1, various things happening. Really proud of the consultation for a huge enterprise model, which is a very different way of working, particularly in public sector. Huge union learning curve. Very interesting, met some great people through that process as well. And then I got a call from an ex-colleague of Network Rail. I'm working here now. We think we've got a gap for a people director. Are you ready to come out of Network Rail? And honestly, yes, I was. I had a fantastic 4 years with them. They funded lots of development for me. I did my chartered fellowship while I was working there. Worked on some incredible projects, but from a personal perspective, the public sector is not where I thrive.
I can imagine
I found it quite limiting and quite constraining, at times quite frustrating. And it suits some people, and I see why people spend their career on the railway. It is a fascinating environment, but for my personal journey, I was not ready to settle into that way of working. So I applied for the Morgan Sindall role, kind of going, why not? That I've got nothing to lose. And the further I went through the process, I kept thinking, I really, really want this now. And I don't know what I'm going to do.
When they say no.
Thankfully, they didn't. Quite a trying time leaving Network Rail. I felt quite guilty about it, actually, because I had only been in post for a year, and I kind of thought, I just feel like I was doing a bit of a dirty on him. That's certainly not how it played out, but yeah, really challenging. I get quite emotionally attached to the people that I work with as well, so it was really interesting. I went over to Morgan Sindall May last year. So I've been there just over a year now. What an incredible business. It's been a really perfect blend for me, because what I'd said to Andy was my other half, the next job I do when I leave Network Rail, I want to be the people director, the HR director. Because in Network Rail, there was 5 of us, there's 5 regions, 5 HR directors, a couple in the centre, a group HR director. So trying to make a decision at times is challenging.
Yeah.
Because each of those reasons got different wants and needs, different challenges they're trying to overcome, all of that kind of stuff. So actually trying to make a singular decision for a business of that size is really difficult. Where I am now, fantastic, a really successful business. John Morgan set this up in the 60s. It's grown exponentially. The infrastructure side of the business where I work, very profitable, long-term standing client relationships. We deliver predominantly for public sector. So Network Rail is one of our key clients, TfL, National Grid, and we work across everything. So we're talking about nuclear submarine houses, to sorting out a bridge over a railway and everything in between. We're on the Great Grid Partnership, which will see all the electrical grid stuff being upgraded over the next 10 years. Really interesting challenges around skill set and various stuff. But it has the balance of feeling like a really nice family type environment, operating like a good commercial machine. And a size that means we really know what's going on and where our people are and what we can do, and change can be affected really well. And the things that I've been given the freedom to do while I'm here, the money to do while I'm here, and the backing to get that over the line, I've made more progress in the last year than I did in 4 years at Network Rail, but that's the nature of the beast. Really supportive, and kind of through that time we've had all the family stuff of the kids are now 18, 20 and 22, coming up for just over 2 years ago. My stepdaughters very sadly lost their mum. So we kind of been through that as a family. And there was a real wake-up call for me in that, in terms of, and I've always known this and I say it, but we don't always practice our own words, do we? That, life is short and it's precious and we should do what we want with it.
Yeah.
Without obviously hurting or upsetting people, and don't stand for things that aren't right. If it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. If you don't like it, don't do it. I mean, I don't like putting the bins out. You still got to do that. So there's not a very nice consequence if you don't. But I work in a job with hugely transferable skills. So if an opportunity doesn't work out, you go and find another one. But I had so much when I was leaving Network Rail of people going, why? Like, you've got a job for life here. And I was like, I know. And I could come back if I want to.
Yeah.
Because I've had a fabulous time here and I've not burnt my bridges. But I also really strive to work for places where, when my son's got his A-level results, I'm not booking time off.
Yeah.
I'm driving him to see his A-level results, and he's got his driving theory test in a couple of weeks, and I'll be sat nervously in the car outside while he's doing it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when I need to be somewhere at 6 o'clock in the morning and stay over somewhere else, and there's a real balance. So I was so happy with the move here, and I think the build up to that has given me a really good grounding, that while there are days I get out of bed and think someone's going to work out, I don't know what I'm doing in a minute, I can overcome a bit of that and just kind of go, no, let's get on with it. I've got a fantastic team and some really exciting times ahead. So yeah, that's
awesome.
That's me.
Wow.
That's brilliant. I've got about 600
So have I, yeah. First of all, I don't know how you fitted so much in. Well, no, mine was just an observation about how old are you? I think...
Thankfully, lots of jobs on the CV are given as a positive thing these days.
I think it doesn't matter, does it?
That's one of the things I was interested in, is because you are right, you could have stayed at any one of those jobs forever and ever, but what was it in there's something in you that just goes, yeah, but it's time for change, it's time to do something else. What is it? What point do you think you have to get to before you go, right, okay, I'm gonna try something else?
So it's a few things, isn't it? In some of those circumstances, it's been a huge shift in the people. And who I work with is deeply important to me. And don't get me wrong, we're humans. We're not all built to get on with each other and want to go for a beer on a Friday, but we should respect each other for what we do and how we do it. And in some teams, there's magic. It's like music bands. They can be technically good and deliver an okay performance, or they have that magic. And I hunger for that latter thing, with a team that gels, pulling in the right direction, not politics and the backstabbing and that kind of stuff. So there are environments I've been in where I've gone, no, I don't want to work like that. I'm off. There are situations where I've perhaps started to have those career conversations around what's next. And the reality is you might be just waiting for the next person in the line to retire or to move. And I've kind of gone, well, do I want to wait? Because that's as long as a piece of string, or do I go and look? So it's always been a bit of a balance of those. I'm not someone who's ever really had a plan or been particularly aspirational about what good looks like for me. The opportunities tend to come, and I kind of get this natural feel of when something's coming to its conclusion, normally driven by how much passion I now have for what I do.
If you're not, because there's a fine line, isn't there, between passion and frustration. Do you also get that sense of like, because you are one of the most committed, passionate people that we've worked with, you can move mountains with that, can't you? But actually the flip side of that must mean that sometimes it starts to really get into your head. Is that something you've had to deal with? Because I think a lot of people who are listening will probably really empathise with that, because passion drives you, but actually that fine line with frustration can also be like your own worst enemy, can't it? How do you deal with that?
So I used to put the Serenity Prayer as the first slide of all my team meetings. So the first
is that the one from?
Is
that from AA?
It is, and it talks about the things you can and cannot change. The wisdom to know the difference and the strength to see that through is essentially what it's saying. So I particularly had to hone that skill in Network Rails. So something can frustrate you, but if it is outside of your sphere of influence or your ability to change, you are burning unnecessary energy fighting the machine. Now, if those things are a deal breaker for you, then you've got a difficult decision to make, and you should make that. If you can live with that because you can make change over here, then that's where, so I've had to learn to funnel my energy where I can make change, not frustrate myself to a point where actually I just want to throw my toys out the pram.
I wanted to ask because I think that's how I've seen you change over the years we've known you. And I think it's easy. There's a lot of platitudes, isn't there, for people in this business? Oh, just choose your battles and choose your attitude. But they're just words, aren't they? Like part of what we want to help is to people listening is how do you do that? What are the tips? And I think that's really interesting to hear, particularly because you're in really strategic roles now where you've got the eyes of the company watching you, haven't you? You're never not visible in a leadership position.
Absolutely. And the phrase I use quite often is that the hill you want to die on? And I say it in the sense of, I agree with the words, don't fight every battle, etc. But understanding or recognising which ones are worth it, I will always just say to people, what's your benefit versus your effort? What's your input versus output? And if one doesn't outweigh the other in the right direction, don't do it.
Yeah.
And there's other times where you go, but there will be a hill you want to die on, right? So find out what that is. You compromise on the other things, because at the point you need to dig your heels in,
that's where
you've got to have a little bit of being able to go, well, hold on a minute. We compromised over here. We shifted that. We didn't do this. This is a non-negotiable. And I found that does tend to work quite well, but you've got to have that foresight to kind of go, what are all the steps in the dance? Where are the bits where we can and can't make change or influence, and which is a really critical bit?
It's a bit of self-reflection, isn't it? You've got to learn like self-awareness and also self-reflection, haven't you? Really, which is hard, but I think it's a really good skill, particularly for women, to do with some of the challenges they're facing.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that, because I did get asked this question when I was doing something with our women's network the other week around frustration, and someone had asked me what has driven me to get to quite a senior role at quite a relatively young age. And I quite honestly said, because I've sat in roles where the person in the next tier above me who should be making the decision isn't doing what I consider to be the right thing. So the aspiration is then get to that position, make the right decision.
Yeah.
And each time I've done that, it's in that sense of, if that was me, I'd be doing this. And when the Morgan Sindel opportunity came along, I said to Andy, like, this is a real test. I could get in there and find out my decision making is awful. And that actually that person that I was eye rolling at for years was
now you
knew what they were doing. So I always keep that at the back of my head. And, you know, I've had a check-in with my team today and had a conversation with a couple of them to go, look, I can see some frustrations. What do we need to talk through? Where do we need to get to? Because if it's something I'm doing or not doing, tell me. And what I definitely crave and seek out is feedback. And when I say feedback, I want people to tell me when things aren't the way they need them to be or want them to be. Being patted on the back and being told lovely stuff's great, but it doesn't help us learn or grow. So I really strive for that constructive feedback to kind of go, where can you check? And I've had lots of conversations of, well, you're quite emotional, you can get aggressive, but we only say that word to women, don't we? Or various different things like that. And I've gone, okay, I'm all right with that. So sometimes you take feedback from people and go, all right, thanks
for sharing.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, appreciate that. Not going to do anything about it. Because similar to what we've talked about before is I am me.
Yeah.
I can't fundamentally change who I am without exhausting myself by trying to keep that up.
And who would you be changing yourself for as well? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a different story if you go, actually, I'm not happy with my behaviour and how I'm acting and I want to do something about it, but you don't have to do that for anyone else, do you?
And generally that would be situational. I will often walk away from a scenario and go, I did not behave in my best self there, or I wish I'd just taken a breath or whatever. But there are reflective moments in time where I can start to recognise my own behaviour, my own triggers, think differently, pause, right, how do you want this to come across? Do that differently. But I cannot fundamentally change who I am. And that's why, while I've had quite a varied career, industry-wise are quite similar. Because actually, no matter what people do or don't think about heavy engineering, infrastructure industries, yes, they are quite white male dominated, but actually they're pretty inclusive because we do talk honestly, we do have challenging conversations. It's okay every now and then to have a bit of a Barney with someone and to clear the air and to put, because the repercussions of not doing that can be really, really serious. And we talk very seriously about being safe to speak, being heard, challenged, no matter how serious or senior that person is, or whether you really understand the scenario. If it doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right, you say something. And because I'm naturally that kind of person, it works really well for me because I'm able to use those kind of natural personality traits in a positive way for my role. I just have to watch myself sometimes because my heart overtakes my head. Because I care.
Yeah. But it's only because you care. And I think that it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Not necessarily for today, but that reflection on how when women care, sometimes it comes out as emotional, but it's labelled aggression. It's like, where's the switch in that? Where does that move to? And I think it's a really interesting thing to reflect on, which is, and I think Elle just said it, at what point is changing for others compromising everything about your own integrity? And you can feel it in you, can't you? Like, I was in an organisation once and it like just destroyed me. Oh, hello. Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Something's gone on with Riverside there. Sorry. Apologies. Sorry, Elle.
That's okay.
Oh, how weird. Ooh, we've got visitors again. Yeah, can't think what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So I think there's whole debates to be had about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few words that would be more negatively used to describe a women's behaviour versus the word that would be used. So aggressive or whatever that might. Generally, what I hear when I hear similar scenarios with my male counterparts would be ambitious or driven.
Crazy. That's crazy.
And it's just really different, isn't it? And I remember once, many moons ago, I think it was one of the first 360 feedbacks I did through a proper process. And I can almost verbatim remember this comment because I know who wrote it as well. And we did have a giggle about it. It said, there are times when India can come across quite patronising. I know she doesn't mean to, but perhaps, that would help. And I read it and I was like, oh no, if I've been patronising,
I really meant it.
And I think that's where, so we had this conversation. I said, that is the difference sometimes on a really, stereotypical level. Women are generally very sure about why they're behaving the way they are, and it's quite purposeful. Whereas sometimes when I've had conversations with my male colleagues say, do you realise that's how you came across? And they're like, oh no, that's not what I meant. Whereas I'm like, I did, and that's okay. Because you were patronising me because I was the little woman. But that's all right. But I genuinely have worked in very male-dominated businesses my entire career. And I'm very lucky. I've not had negative scenarios around harassment or bullying, or I don't feel my opportunities have been hindered or any of that. Now, that might help that I'm in the people profession where there is generally more women, but certainly my opportunities have not been hindered. But I recognise that that's not the case for a lot of my colleagues. I'm quite an outspoken and at least outwardly quite confident person. Of course, we all have our internal anxieties and things that we deal with, but I do kind of hold my own quite well in those spaces. What I want to try and address is for the more introverted, the more reflective, the more blue insights type personalities. Actually, how do we unlock that's okay as well, and that we give everyone a voice? Because unfortunately, there is the risk with people like me that I will talk the hind legs off a donkey, and the person this is what I say, I will waffle for hours, and about 10% of what I say is worth listening to. Whereas I have colleagues who will only speak 10% of the time, but 100% of what they say is worth listening to.
When my daughter was doing her, it must be, is it GCSEs or A levels or something? She was doing maths and physics and that stuff. And I remember, like when it gives you like a 5-pointer, and she was doing the practice exams. You'll know this, Ellie. It's Laura, and I'd say, Laura, you've written 20 words. And she went, but that's exactly what I want to say, Mum. And I was like, we've got to pad it out because it's a 5-pointer. And she's like, I can't, no. And I think you've got to, and without labelling people like introverts or this, that, and the other, you've got to like really understand. For Laura, wasting words is wasteful. Right? So I think you're spot on. When you're helping women deal with the environment they're in, it's got to be really personalised. You can't like shoehorn it in to this is what I would do.
As well, like it's important. Like, why shouldn't the fact that you haven't experienced any of that in really male-dominated environments? Actually, it is important to know that as well, because we know that people are dealing with that day to day, in and out, and it's horrendous. I think sometimes you can't fight fire with fire, but you can fight fire with a different example. Do you know what I mean? Like you have been in environments where that hasn't happened. Therefore, it's doable. It can be done.
Yeah, spot on.
And it's like I think it's important to show that sometimes. And I know we probably can do about 10 minutes, but I wanted to ask, because I think it comes out throughout all of your story that you have had some really key supportive like people backing you throughout your career. And I guess my question isn't like, how did you find them? Because I'm absolutely sure that you just stumbled upon it. But I guess, like, what has been the importance for that? Like, what is it about these people? I guess if someone's thinking, oh, I'd love to find someone like that, but don't know who I'm looking for, what is it about all these people that you've had across your career that you've gone, yeah, it's this trait, they really cared about them? I'm going to shut up. You know what I'm talking about.
It's a really good question. I don't think the answer is entirely straightforward, because if we knew the answer, we'd be millionaires and selling the algorithm. But there's a few things for me. So none of the people who have been poignant in my career have ever been worried about how successful I could be. The flip side of that, I've worked with people and seen this happen where they are so threatened by potential and talent around them that they keep a lid on it in case it makes them look bad. Whereas I have worked for and with people who thrive in seeing other people succeed. So these people generally find you.
Yeah.
Because there is something they will see, or you'll end up in a space where they're there and they are, whether they know it or not, looking for these people because they have a natural want and desire to help and see people succeed. They are the type of people who I have formed quite personal relationships with. So I have stood toe to toe having a shouting argument with Gary in a way that you wouldn't normally do with a colleague. And people say this, we're like a family-run business. Say, okay, I understand the premise of what you're saying there, but family is complete safety. So the ability to stand up, say the most awful thing, the most silly thing, forget to say the important thing, slam a door, and then walk back in half an hour later and go, should we have a cup of tea? With the complete knowledge, nothing you can do can hinder that relationship. There is nothing my son could do to stop me from feeling the way I do about him. But the reality of your work colleagues is there is. So there is always something, and that's right, because, you know, it's a very different relationship, but there's always something where you keep that, you know where the line is and you don't necessarily cross it. The people that have been so important in my career is where the line is a little bit more blurry, where they really understand you as a person, they really care about who you are outside of work, they really listen to what it is that you're saying, even when you don't know you're saying it. So they will hear the things that you don't know you're saying or other people are saying. And what ends up happening is, and because I aspire to be like that for the people around me as well, your name then gets mentioned in a room that you're not in, or an opportunity comes up that you might not be perfect for. I mean, I had a conversation with the director at Network Rail about the potential for doing a safety role, not because I've got safety qualifications, but because there's such a crossover with behaviour, and how could we look at cross skills in some of those functions where there's such interdependency. And it wasn't the right opportunity for me, but that director was willing to have a conversation with me because the right person mentioned my name. And then you build the network and you pay it forward and you keep it going. So it's not like trying to find a mentor where you're looking for a skill set and an experience that you want to draw that from. These are people that tend to migrate towards each other, and it happens kind of organically. But if you're not the type of person that's quite emotionally driven like me, because I'm seeking out those emotional connections, you've probably got to look a little bit harder to spot some of those signs.
It's really interesting what you say, because I've been watching the wave of the newest move for women about from mentorship to sponsorship, which makes my teeth great. And it's a great question, Elle, because it becomes a transaction. You know, you must find a sponsor, and it's not a transaction, because I think it's amazing what you said. It's that heart connection. And these whole things like find yourself a sponsor, come on a program about sponsorship, and you think, God, it sounds like the FA Cup or something. But actually, for me, it's that emotional connection when you get that person really wants the best for you. It worries me that sponsorship is the new mentorship.
I know, that's why I've tried quite hard to say there's no formula to this, because it's quite a natural thing, and I don't even know if sponsor's the right word to use anymore.
No, I don't like it at all.
But there's been a couple of scenarios where I've gone, that person genuinely has my back. And so if things go wrong at work, right, we make a million mistakes. I've probably made 4 this morning. I maybe have worked out 2 of them, and the other 2 I'll work out when it circles back round to me. And that's okay, because we're humans, we're not machines. We do things with the best of intent generally, and occasionally we make a mistake. The way I try to operate with my team, because this is how I have had leaders work with me, is as long as I know, I'll lay on any grenade for you. We're in it together. And that's all very well said. It's a bit like, don't die on this hill. Don't fight every battle. When it does hit the fan and you watch someone leap on that grenade in
Yeah.
defence of you, that drives something quite profound, I suppose,
No,
would
it's
be
a good word.
a cheesy way of saying it, that you kind of go, that person actually did that. They came through with what they said. They were there. Of course, there's repercussions. You're probably going to end up in a meeting room being told, under no uncertain circumstances, let that happen again. But you do it in a way that means the right conversations had at the right time. People aren't left out in the cold. They're not thrown under a bus. We're in it together. And that will naturally start to bring out some of those, because we have all been in environments where we think that's what's going to happen, and you are just absolutely left out there on your own, and that's hugely damaging.
It's amazing, and it's
for the relationship.
I remember when I was a HR director, and I inadvertently sent everybody's salaries for a certain group of people to everybody that was in that group. I thought I was going to physically throw up, and I had a really amazing boss, and I thought, I'm going to have to tell him, and I thought, oh my God, I should be sacked for this. And I remember to this day what he said, and I got an absolute horrendous bollocking. But he was, at that moment of time, and it's a really good way of saying it, he stepped into it and didn't make me feel like an idiot.
Because you already know, you've been an idiot. You don't need to be told.
I remember that,
and I think that's where it is, isn't it? The average person absolutely knows when they've messed up, and people who care about their job are absolutely racked by that. And it's a bit like, no difference when your kids completely do something. And I've said to him, you don't need me to make you feel any worse than you do. You do need to think about how we make sure that doesn't happen again. And that's the key, isn't it? Yeah. Because bashing someone over the head with it is not going to help. It drives a behaviour where people go, well, I'm just not going to do anything for fear of retribution. Yeah. And inaction for me is intolerable. So I'm kind of like, try it and fail rather than do nothing out of fear. And that's probably a bit of a mantra for my career. And I take the view of, if it doesn't work out, I'll do something else.
Yeah.
So definitely. That leads nicely, doesn't it, to the next 6 months then for you in your newish role, what's going on for you? Not necessarily just work, but what does the next 6 months look like for you?
The next 6 months for me, so personally, my sister's getting married in October. So we've got hen do's and wedding in Dublin and various things happening. Our son, having just got his A-level results, will now be looking at, he's decided not to do uni. So we're in apprenticeship hunt mode now. So we'll be doing a lot of that while trying to get him driving. So he's doing driving lessons and various things. So lots of stuff personally. On a work note, big piece of supportive work we're looking at in terms of completely overhauling and redesigning career pathways and development opportunities internally. A lot of that driven through gender pay gap challenges around predominantly women saying they don't feel they have the same opportunities. So actually, how do we take all of that away? How do we go, that might have been how we did it yesterday, and that's fine, but that ain't how we're going to do it tomorrow. Some really good stuff coming.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. And this whole conversation has been amazing. So thank you for taking the time to speak to us, really. So we've got a last and final question for you, India. If you had to pick a theme song to be the theme... If you had to pick a song to be the theme song for your life,
that'd be quite a good question.
What song would it be?
So I had to actually choose a theme song last year for our leadership conference. And when you work in HR and you start listening to song lyrics, there's not many that you go, oh, that's appropriate to play, is it? But also wanting it to be quite poignant. Where I actually ended up was This Is Me from The Greatest Showman.
Oh, nice.
Fits with our podcast title. So,
walked out on stage to Watch Out Because Here She Comes, which I thought was quite an introduction to my first leadership conference with Morgan Sindel. Nice. But there are many, many levels to that song, but mostly about accepting who you are. Don't let anyone else decide what they're going to be, and just kind of get on with it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That's why we call this podcast This Is Me, and we should be unadulteratedly proud of This Is Me. Absolutely. And you should be. It's what a fun-filled hour, which I think I need to go and lie down now.
Well, thank you for letting me.
It's awesome.
That was brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you next time. Bye.